Hi everyone, I'm Gary, and it's a warm welcome to the fourth official here on YouTube and the first of a brand new video series looking at the young guns of Scottish football. Here to join me on our debut voyage on this subject is Jenna Thomson from the brilliant Sammon's Pizzeria podcast. Warm welcome, Jenna. You're making your debut here on the fourth official, so it's lovely to have you on board.
Happy to be here.
So, as you may have seen, as you've clicked on the video, we are talking today about Lennon Miller, the young Motherwell midfielder who has absolutely kind of captured the imagination, I think, of all of Scottish football across, particularly this season after his kind of breakthrough year last year, where he was nominated for the SPFA Young Player of the Year. Narrowly missing out to David Watson of Kilmarnock for that award. But I think it's fair to say that Lennon has grown in stature, I think, over the course of this season and is now becoming a real linchpin in that Motherwell midfield this year. As a Motherwell fan, Jenna, what is it that has seen Lennon kind of take his game to that kind of next level this season?
There's quite a few different things, to be honest. Obviously, with his age as well, he only turned 18 at the start of the season. He's been playing first team football professionally since he's about 16, 17 years old. That is not an easy thing to do straight out of high school and into first team football. That's almost unheard of. It's great to see. The confidence that young man has is phenomenal. You would think he'd been playing first team football for about 10 years easy. I know his dad is obviously a famous footballer. Don't know if it's maybe been instilled into him, works so hard, but honestly, the boy is miles ahead of the age that he should be. He has a generational talent, and one of the best things about him as well, on the pitch, he's always focused. He's quite in your face if you're a defender anyway. Like, he likes to really push things forward. He gets the game moving quite well. He's really controlled in that midfield as well. Again, the responsibility he bears. He is quite a bit of a leader, to be honest, which again you wouldn't expect from his age. But whenever there's been a game where he's maybe had to come off early, or if he's maybe been out injured or anything like that, the midfield just screams out for him because he is such a huge loss. You wouldn't expect such a young, I know I keep saying it, but it is just true. He is so young, it is phenomenal. You wouldn't expect someone of such short tenure to be so impressive, and he's captured the hearts of all of us because that's the one thing you want to see, not just for your club, but for what it means for the country as well. Obviously, Lennon Miller, he is from Scotland. He plays for Scotland under 21s at the moment. Knowing that we have talent that at this age, it's almost a sign of what's to come in the future for him. I have no doubt in my mind, not only will he do great things for Motherwell, he'll do great things for the Scotland national team, and more to the point, once he inevitably gets his big move that he is more than owed already, he's going to do great things for them as well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of part of the reason why we've started this series, because there is a lot of young talent kicking around Scottish football at the moment, and across this series we'll look at many of those individuals that's on there. But if you look at the likes of Miller alongside David Watson, Connor Barron at Rangers midfield, they could quite easily be the next generation of Scotland's midfield options, alongside, say, someone like a Scott McTominay, who's still pretty young himself. There's Billy Gilmore as well. There's lots of really exciting players all in that midfield area. It'd be great, I think, from a Scotland perspective, we could find some players in other positions, but I think it's a part of the pitch that we appear to be kind of blessed in at the moment. And obviously I've seen Lennon at the very kind of distance in the games he's played against Rangers recently, but he was very much involved last season at Ibrox with some nice flicks and setting up a goal for Motherwell there with a really nice piece of skill that makes you think go, oh, there's something here. And I know that there was some stories linking him. Rangers certainly being accredited with an interest in him in the summer. Nothing came of that, and actually I think that's probably been quite a good thing for Lennon, because he can continue to develop and play first team football week in, week out. Whether or not come the end of this season, if Rangers have got the money to go and sign him, might be a different matter, because I think maybe like someone like a Lewis Ferguson, who's gone out of Scottish football from Aberdeen and gone to that next level over at Bologna, I think Miller's got that potential high ceiling as well, that he can go beyond the old firm. And I think you've seen what's happened to Bailey Rice, who's another that highly promising youngster that went to Rangers from Motherwell, and he's had only about 3 minutes of first team football over the course of the last year, and his development's very much been kind of stunted by not playing first team football, and maybe he would have been better off maybe staying at Motherwell and having more first team minutes under his belt before making that big move. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I fully agree, to be honest. Not just Bailey Rice that has suffered from that, Jake Hastie has as well. During the era of, obviously, Alan Campbell, David Turnbull and Jake Hastie, the three of them were amazing together. Jake Hastie jumped ship far too soon, went to Rangers. Don't even think he put the jersey on other than to take his signing picture, to be honest, because he immediately got sent out on loan to multiple clubs. He even came back to ourselves at one point as well. And I don't even know who he's playing for now, to be honest. I think last time I heard it was Hamilton Accies. I don't know if that was a permanent transfer or a loan situation, but it just goes to show you go from being hailed as one of the strongest talents for your age, you get a big move, and you don't get used. I'm glad Miller stayed with us. I'm hoping he's maybe seen things like that happen to likes like Bailey Rice and to likes of Jake Hastie as well, and hopefully learned from that. David Turnbull and Alan Campbell, again, young players he does compared to quite a lot in terms of the what ifs and what's going to happen with his career. Turnbull obviously went to Celtic. He became our highest transfer sale ever for the club. The difference with that one is, though, he paid his time at Motherwell. He had a couple of seasons under his belt, went there. Now, fair enough, at the time, it did kind of seem as though when Neil Lennon was manager, he really wanted to build the team around Turnbull, and obviously certain things happened, that didn't come to fruition, and now I think he's playing for Cardiff full-time now, but it still worked out quite well for him because he paid his dues. Same with Alan Campbell, played with us, I think, was it Norwich or Ipswich? I can't remember what one he went to. It was one of the ones always yo-yoing out of the Premier League.
Luton now, yeah.
Luton, that's it. I knew it was one of them.
Yeah.
He's at Luton now. So hopefully with a bit of luck, he pays his dues here. I would love to see him do a Max Johnson, to be honest, and go abroad to somewhere like into an Italian side, even maybe a Spanish side, just to kind of spice up a bit, because far too often young players, not just from all, just across the league in general, they go to Celtic or to Rangers and they just get used as a bench warmer, or they get loaned out to lower league teams and they're not really furthering their development any further. To be honest, I'm glad he stayed with us, not just from a selfish perspective, oh, it's great to have such a young talent, but for concern.
That gives him football. Yeah. I think you see Connor Barron knows maybe been on the flip side, and he's played every game for Rangers so far this season in an area of the park, and he's absolutely wasn't someone that was playing every week for Aberdeen last year, and he's gone on and he's kicked on this season, and he's almost first pick now in that Rangers midfield. And I think it's about being the right player with the right skill set at the right time and being able to then produce and kick on, because it is a highly pressurised area, and I think Miller's probably getting the benefit just now of being slightly under the radar, but he's now a main man at Motherwell. In terms of him as a youngster, obviously you mentioned making his first team debut at 16, but he's obviously a local lad. He's been through the Motherwell setup since the age of 7. Was he someone that was highly regarded through the kind of youth ranks, that they were crying out for him to make his debut at 16, or was it a case of at 16 he comes in and you go, oh, where did this guy come from?
Definitely the second one, to be honest. I hadn't heard of him before. The club put out a tweet saying every year they do this. Whenever the younger guys sign their first kind of professional contracts, they'll always say, academy graduates, such and such, such and such, and so and so. They've signed professional contracts for a year, 2 years, and usually like 4 months later, they may be on the bench a couple of times, and you hear, we've loaned them out to Gretna, or we've sent them to Alloa or something like that, and you just kind of, okay, fair enough. Or they might get a couple of games in the League Cup group stages, and that's about it. Thankfully, that didn't happen with Miller. I can't remember from the top of my head, to be honest, if it was Stephen Hamill who brought him through, or if it was Kettlewell. I'm trying to think back. I'm sure it might have been Stephen Hamill, just because when he became interim manager after Alexander departed, he was actually the youth coach at the time. So he actually brought through quite a lot of young players into starting, not so much the starting 11, but at least to match the football. A couple of them did get a couple of starts, and I'm pretty sure Miller was one of them. I could be wrong, so just in case I'm wrong, no one quote me on that, please, without Googling it yourselves after watching this. But I'm positive it was him. If not, it was round about the transfer, definitely from the Hamill era to Kettlewell, is really when he kind of first started to come in. He is a phenomenal player overall. Again, I can't stop singing his praises enough. I was a little bit critical of him at the start of the season, just because there were a couple of games where he was getting played out of position. I'm not really sure why Kettlewell wanted to do that. I don't know if he was just trying to shake up the team a little bit because there are a lot of new players, just try to see best formation, best tactic with them or not. I actually said on the Sammon's podcast at one point I could feel the price tag zeros falling off him with every minute I watched. But luckily he's back on track now. He's back on, he's focused, he's composed, and he's doing us proud every day. Again, as you said, he is a local boy. He knows what the club means to the fans. He's grew up in that environment, and it's something, it's so refreshing to see, because a lot of times it feels as though you don't really hear about that very often. Local players playing for the local team and actually doing well and showing them that little bit of loyalty. He was due out of contract at one point when he suffered an injury. He signed an extension. I can't remember how long it was, just because I think it was a season and a bit ago. But it's the best thing he's done, and hopefully we can get him tied down for at least another year or two, just in hopes that we can get a little bit of money for him. Because as I did previously say, one of the main people that get compared to in terms of success is David Turnbull. I think it was like 3.25 Turnbull ended up going for, and that was with a short-term extension coming back from the infamous leg injury and everything. If that's what we got for a weakened Turnbull, I can see as minimum getting 5 million for Lennon Miller, minimum.
Which then puts them probably outside of the range of probably most teams in Scotland in terms of budgets for that type of player. I think you look at Celtic's midfield at the moment, it's quite strong, so probably wouldn't be looking to kind of go there. They've just obviously signed Luke McCowan as well from Dundee, and he's a kind of squad player for them. They paid just £1 million for him. But for me, I think Lennon Miller does have a high ceiling. He's someone that I think is very exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he does across the rest of the season. I think already he's standing up in probably one of the leading contenders for Young Player of the Year again this season, albeit we're only in October and there's a lot of football still to be played.
Yeah.
What's his best position? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 10? Is he a mix of all three?
I wouldn't maybe say a 10, to be honest. Like, he does kind of press going forward, but I think that would be a bit too much responsibility for him just at this stage in his career. I'd probably say about the 6 or 8 mark's probably more accurate for him. He seems to kind of succeed more in that like kind of deep parts in the midfield. He doesn't really do too great in the defensive side of things. That's kind of what Ketwell was trying to do with him at the start of the season. Again, that could just be down to lack of experience potentially, because he has always been more on like the central midfield kind of side of things. But I don't doubt for a minute if he does have to go into that role, he could probably do a shift for us as well. I think he would just need some extra coaching. But as it stands now, I can see him probably being about an 8.
Okay. And in terms of that kind of high ceiling, confident that you can hold on to him in January, or is it one that if teams come in with big money, are Motherwell quite kind of aware of the fact that we'll financially they maybe don't need to cash in on him right now, but they're aware that there's obviously enough time left on his contract that they can allow him to play a bit more football and maybe wait for the right offer to come in rather than having to just take any old offer. I think like they had to do with Max Johnson, who was obviously out of contract, and it wasn't quite as straightforward for them to be able to cash in on his undoubted talent.
Oh no, definitely. Like, the situation with Max Johnson is the exact same with Alan Campbell. Both didn't sign extensions, so we got a nominal development fee just because they came through the academy. I think there was rumours of it being about 500,000. I don't know for definite. It was all just supposed like hush rumours floating about on Twitter. That's what it was for. But I did just check that it was Stephen Hamill who brought through Lennon Miller. So again, because he was the youth coach, that'll be how he came through it, and he was able to get that chance. With in terms of securing a decent deal for him, it's a bit of a weird one financially with us lately. I don't know if you followed this, but the whole issue with investment at the start of the season, is it going to happen? Is it going to not? Is the club like a second away from being equivalent, being like homeless and having to go bankrupt? Like, we just didn't know. The finances just weren't told to fans at all. Eventually that got cleared up. Luckily we're fine. Everything's okay before that gets clapped. Everything at Motherwell's fine financially, can confirm. But I think it really does just depend. We did get $1 million and a bit for Theo Bear, which helps as well. That was probably mostly went to transfer fees for extra players coming in. Like, so the Australian players we signed as well. I believe they came in. We had to pay a little bit of money for them. To be honest, if the deal's good enough, Motherwell will probably accept it. But it has to be good for both him. It has to be good for us before I think Motherwell will say yes to it. Because, as I've kind of previously touched on, if he's going somewhere to warm the bench, say just for talking sake, we get $5.5 million for him. Yeah, it's great for us, but realistically, is it though? because you can have all the money in the world and have horrible players. You've probably seen that with Rangers over the years. You can spend a fortune, earn a fortune, and the quality might just not be there. So I think it has to be a very delicate process. But if it works out fine, I can see him going. But I don't think Motherwell are keen to get rid of him just yet, though.
Yep, I think he's a player who very much may well be in the Scotland squads of the future. I know that the current Nations League squad was picked, and there was a few eyebrow-raising selections in the midfield area, but I think that's down to the under-21s having some big games in October to try and secure their qualification for the Euros tournament. So I think that's why he is in there, but I think he's very much a player who should be on Steve Clarke's radar, and it'll be interesting to see if Scotland do manage to get into that Euros for the under-21s, whether or not the likes of him, Watson, Barron end up back in the senior setup for the games in November and forward. So we'll watch out with great interest. I think he is a player who is exciting and has got a lot to him. Maybe could get a few more goals, I think, from the outside. That's one thing that I think he could maybe add to his game, but I think he's got an awful lot of strings to his bow in terms of that kind of playmaker, very highly creative. He's got good stature, good brain about him, but also good temperament, and I think that's half the battle with young players coming up from the west of Scotland. And all too often we've seen players who get a bit of a taste of the big time and start thinking that they're the next iteration of Kenny Dalglish, and they then fall off a cliff. So I think he seems to be someone that's got his head screwed on correctly, and I think it will very much see how the rest of the season takes to him. But no, big thank you to Jenna for coming on, talking about Lennon Miller. If you want to hear more about Motherwell, where can people find more about you, Jenna? Where can they track you down?
So they can obviously find me on Sammon's Pizzeria on Twitter. We do the weekly podcast as well as at least one interview a week is what we're aiming for now with players. We've had a couple of reps come on. We've had former managers as well. All sorts of fun stuff getting cooked up in the pizzeria for everyone. Or if they just want to follow myself on Twitter, my username is Jenna Tom1552. You can find me on there. It's Tom as in THOM.
Lovely. Big thank you for joining us. We will be back here on the Fourth Official with more Young Guns in the future. Thank you for watching. We'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.